Let's talk about something today which I feel resistance towards, which I feel like, okay, actually, I don't really want to talk about this. I'd like rather look the other way. But at the same time, I feel like a deeper desire to talk about it because I feel like it's so important on the journey to be able to put all your cards out on the table, to be, in a sense, open and vulnerable, and to show where your distortions are or where your quote unquote flaws are. On an absolute level, this is not a problem because you're truly always already whole and complete. Your nature is perfect. But you could say that is the absolute level, and on a more relative level, what we experience within this dream, within this realm, we're distorted as fuck. We have problems, we have challenges, we have blind spots, we have probably egotistic agendas to some extent. So it feels good to open this conversation and to also share what has been for me, for example, recently, a pattern that I have had to look at and be like, I don't really want to look at this, I don't like this. But at the same time, that is what is necessary. You first need to be aware of it, actually know what your distortions are, what your blind spots are, and then accept it. And once you know it and once you have accepted it, then you can move into a different paradigm. But as long as we do not acknowledge it and accept it, then we cannot move beyond it. It will always be controlling us from the shadows. So in order to do that, we need to bring it to the light. We need to illuminate whatever shadows we have within us. And I've noticed that the best way to go about this is by laying all cards out on the table, by being totally open and transparent, first and foremost with yourself, and then extending that to others who you trust, so that there may be a natural reflection from their side. We're always already getting this reflection in regards to how to move beyond it, because sometimes we're so caught up in our own shadows and we do not bring a light with us. So we're in all of these shadows, and if we do not have a light source, then it's so easy to get lost in all the shadows. That's why I always suggest, if you approach anything within yourself that feels like heavy or challenging, bring with yourself a light, or have a friend or another mirror present that can reflect to you, because most likely they're not caught up in your story. They're not caught up in your shadow. So for them, it's easier to shine some light on it and to see it from, like, you could say, a more neutral perspective, instead of not being able to see the trees through the forest. But regardless of that, I wanted to share what has been a pattern that has been alive for me recently, which I'm shining more light on. And that's the pattern of like performance, a certain performance anxiety in which it comes from a state of like not feeling totally worthy, and then overcompensating for that by proving that I'm worthy, by performing, by showing, like, hey mommy, hey daddy, look at me, like I'm worthy, right? Please, please, please acknowledge me. And this is also usually where these patterns are born, where these patterns come from. But again, the key is to know them, to be aware of them, and then to soften them, to see if you can accept them and to notice, because sometimes it still feels like a knee-jerk reaction in certain group, in certain spaces. Like it's almost like a knee-jerk, okay, now I have to prove myself, someone asks me something, and then immediately like it's a form of anxiety, of not feeling safe, of overcompensating, a little bit superficial. And so it feels good to shine my light on this, to be aware of this, and to soften this. Because especially if it has been such a long pattern, it sometimes can still be a little bit, like I said before, like a knee-jerk reaction, and it will take a little bit to thaw it out. But the more you can rest as your true self, the easier and the more detached you are at the same time, and the easier it can dissolve by itself. It's more so just being aware of it, accepting it as it is, letting it be exactly as it is, and then it will naturally fall out. Even if it comes back up again, you just do the same thing. And I actually feel, because I highlighted one side of sort of the thin line that I'm walking as I'm practicing this subtle art of staying true, I notice like sometimes I drift away from my center or my alignment in this performance anxiety, in sort of this overconfidence, which is actually just an insecurity, like energetically trying to show off. But also on the other side of the spectrum, noticing when I doubt myself, when I become like a little bit depressed, a little bit nihilistic. Oh, it doesn't work. It will never work. I will never get this. Oh, other people get it. This is also, in a sense, unworthy. Like falling for the doubts, the suggestion, oh, it doesn't work. And I can just notice my energy spiraling downwards. And we apply the same, you could say, recipe to this, or I'm applying the same recipe to this, to just aware when I notice it. And it's also through like how you feel, which is actually reflected like how true are you staying. Like the more true you are being, the more truthful you are, the more holistic and good you feel. And as soon as you go a little bit out of alignment, your emotional guiding system lets you know like, hey, you're a little bit off. So that is how I usually catch it when I go into doubt, but sometimes it hits me from an angle, gives me an uppercut that I don't see coming. And then I sometimes have to like go down the spiral, and then I have to get myself out of it again, or just recognize existence. And then by recognizing this existence, this always gives me the space. This is why I promote self-realization, recognizing who you truly are. Check out my video that I made yesterday on this, that it's the only thing you know for sure. And sometimes when you're caught up in all of these things, it's easy to forget. But at the end of the day, you can always return to this, to source, to awareness, because that is always good, no matter what. But there's still a relevance to this relative journey, and in a sense I feel like purifying that, even though that happens simultaneously as well, as you rest in awareness, as you rest in your being, but also in terms of service, of being generous to this world and having some context, some understanding, some compassion for what people go through. Also be aware of, you could say, this more relative techniques of how to balance out your system, so you can find that truthful constitution within yourself. And I feel like I'm drifting a little bit off of like my original point with like the doubts. Yeah, to know that pattern sort of that arises in terms of like doubting myself, being a little bit pessimistic, then catching that, and then just letting that be as it is, accepting it, or recognizing that everything is always already accepted. Otherwise, it wouldn't arise. And this is what I feel like is currently helping me to balance out, like I said, find my inner constitution of truth, in which I can be more a clearer, more transparent expression of all that is, of the one infinite creator. You could say of I am X. And feel free to also share what you currently feel like is your edge, or where you feel like you might have a distortion that you want to shine some light on. I've noticed that it's always good to bring it in, because if I'm like ruminating on it within myself, I'm not sharing it with anyone. I don't want anyone to know that I'm unworthy. Anything like this, to just even bring it out, or even speak it out loud. No one needs to even hear it, or just talk to yourself in the mirror, or even record a video like this just for yourself, where you just speak it out, where you just get it in front of yourself. Because as long as you're ruminating on it, thinking about it, this is where the downward spiral comes, and where you have no clarity on what is actually going on, and seeing through that actually all of these patterns have nothing to do with you. You pick them up while incarnating in this life. You, who you truly are, is always already free from this. This is just energies that we're playing with, that we're purifying, that we're cleaning up, that we're overriding in terms of service, so the energetic constitution of this world can also lift. So in that way, you can also apply it much more playfully, like whatever distortions or insecurities or doubts you find within yourself, approach them in an impersonal way, see them just as energy to be played with, and then you can look at them, hey, play, okay, hey, this darkness, hey, this demon. And then that will see through them. It will reveal the true light and the love that it's actually made of. But this can only come from that like truthful, light-hearted attitude towards, you could say, shadow work, or towards these heavier programs or energy pockets here on Earth. Again, feel free to share in the comments so we can shine some light on whatever it is. Put it out in front of you so you can see it's not true to you. And when you can see it's not true to you, you can just bless it. You can thank it, you can dissect it, you can be of service, you can maybe let it rest as it is. Whatever feels aligned in the moment. Stay true, my friend. Much love. I'll see you in the next one.